Okay, okay. We're getting there, we're getting there. Adjust you a little bit. Turn off the annoying gamer lights that I've been dealing with for a year before knowing that I could do anything about them. Sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah, there we are. Crack the neck. Have a little sneeze off camera. Well, it's all off camera for a VTuber, isn't it? Oh, hold on, hold on. Okay, there we go. Had that sneeze. And, hey there, hi there, Hyde here, finally, right? Took me long enough. I know, it was terrible. I was doing things. So we're gonna be playing, more Side Pocket here. My nose is so stuffy after sneezing like that, ugh. I didn't want to talk about sneezing, but since I am, like, I'm one of those people who rarely sneezes. But when I do sneeze, I sneeze like 2 or 3 times in a row most of the time. And then my nose gets all congested, right? Yeah. Some people, they sneeze like an elephant, and it's very loud. That's not really me, not typically. Most of the time, my sneeze goes inward. I don't know if you understand what I mean about a sneeze going inward, but it's like the sneeze goes up my nose into my sinuses. It's very not great. Yeah. Right, okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about today is the 1-year anniversary stream. It's coming up. I have good news. That anniversary actually falls on, like, exactly on a Sunday. So I don't have to change my schedule at all to give you that stream. It will just be there as normal. The only thing is, it will be a slightly different format. As I said before, we're going to be playing an actual video game. Something I'm very nervous to do, might I add. I've been doing Zatsudan streams pretty much non-stop for so many months now. Most of my streams are Zatsudan streams, in fact. I don't know if I have the experience to play video games on stream anymore. Like, I started out doing that. One of my first streams... No, let's talk about my first stream. My first ever stream was Backpack Hero. And that was August 3rd, 2023. Ooh, that was a bad shot. So almost a year ago, I started out with my first stream using a microphone. I did have test streams before that. They were unvoiced. They also did not have a PNGtuber model. Therefore, I do not include them as true Hyde streams. After all, my channel has existed for years now. It has existed for years. Even longer than my content creation, in fact. Simply because I needed an account that didn't have any ties to my real social life so that I could watch VTubers. I'm sure that's relatable, right? Like, you don't want anime girls being in your feed all the time. If you ever have to share your phone or your laptop or whatever, or, you know, you have a coworker looking over your shoulder, something like that. You don't want your... Oh, we're getting a little hiccup in our ISP provision here. Yeah, they're really not providers of IS internet services, are they? They're more like semi-providers. Yeah. They're not very good at providing things. I have been having pretty stable internet as of late, but the last couple days have been pretty bad. Incidentally, I guess that corresponds with, like, the number of storms in my area. Like, there haven't been too many storms as of late, except for the last couple days, where it has been very gray, very stormy. Not ideal. So maybe it is just like a tree on the line. Could be. Right, I was talking about the anniversary stream. That is coming up. We're going to do that on August 3rd, the exact 1-year anniversary of when I started streaming with a microphone. And that works out great, because back in the day, I did not start out just streaming on Sundays. I was trying to stream like 3 days a week if I could, and I quickly found that was unsustainable. I couldn't do it, for a lot of reasons. And back then I was playing video games as well. I wasn't just doing Zatsudan streams, as I am now. After I kind of went through the gaming phase, I realized that's not really my strong suit. My strong suit is more just talking to myself, right? Like some kind of madman out there in the bushes talking to himself while concerned citizens look on in shock and horror. That's my strong suit. So that's what I've been doing for most of my career as a PNGtuber. Oh, can we get that zone? I think we can. I think this is a nice opportunity for a trick shot. We just have to get this 8-ball just right. No? Right about there. Yeah. And, what can I say about it? Like, at first I started with, Zatsu sweepers. Like, I was playing Minesweeper while, doing Zatsudan just chatting streams. And I really enjoyed that format. Although I went through, like, I don't know, at least 10 Zatsu sweeper streams, and I just couldn't win. Which is shocking to me. I don't usually lose Minesweeper, right? Like, yeah, it was expert mode, but at the same time, I'm pretty good at Minesweeper when I'm not streaming. It really convinced me that there is such a thing as streamer brain rot, where your IQ is just lowered ridiculously by the act of streaming. That was pretty bad. I don't know, it's like a full standard deviation down when you start streaming. When you hit that stream button, your mind just goes blank and you don't know what to talk about. So I started... I started with some really ridiculous ideas, right? I wrote things down and I put them in a hat. And then I would randomly pull things out of a hat to talk about. And that worked out terribly. I cannot understate how terribly that went. Like, I think the idea is good. In theory, it could work. I just couldn't make it work. I tried it once. That VOD is nuked. I nuked that VOD from orbit for a lot of reasons. It no longer exists. It never happened as far as I'm concerned. Which is a shame, right? I was drawing Pokemon from memory, which was a pretty interesting stream idea. Maybe I'll do that again someday. I haven't done a drawing stream in a long time. I'm not an artist. I don't want to overstate my artistic abilities, because I am not an artist. But I did used to do drawing streams. At least a couple. When you're just starting out, like, you don't know what you can do as a streamer. I think that's fairly common. I'll admit that I had slightly unrealistic expectations for streaming. I thought it would be easier than it is. I thought I'd be able to ramble on and on and on about whatever inane topic that I wanted to while I was playing games. And the reality of the situation is, it's a lot tougher than it looks. To be entertaining, to do well in a game at the same time, it requires some strong multitasking abilities. And I just don't have strong multitasking abilities. In fact, I I get so tangented so easily. I have to wonder if I have, like, the opposite of multitasking ability. I have multitasking inability, where I just can't do it. So two Sundays from now, speaking of tangents, 2 Sundays from now we're going to be doing the 1-year anniversary stream. We will be playing a game. It will be an interesting time. It's probably going to be a one-off, thinking about it. I don't think I'll finish the game on stream. I have played it before, and I know kind of what to expect, which makes it kind of lose some of the charm a little bit. That said, I will be playing it fairly... Well, I've seen other people do similar things, so I won't say it's originally. Oh, yeah, there we go again. We got another hiccup. Hi, Wintercraft. Nice to see you again. You just left a comment not too long ago, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Multitasking is surprisingly hard, and I don't think it got any better over the last year, so we're just gonna do our best, yeah? Yeah. Speaking of, in preparation for the 1-year stream coming up, 2 Sundays from now, I have to keep shilling that, right? As a streamer, I realize I'm not shilling myself enough. I need to sell. I am the product. That sounds horrible, but as a content creator, it's kind of the truth, isn't it? That I have to sell myself as if I were a product. Like, I'm not actually concerned with numbers. I'm just here to have a good time and improve myself as both a streamer and a person. Oh, wow. That reminds me of my earliest streams, right? My earliest streams, I sound half feral. And I was, right? Like, you could have mistaken me for a homeless person that somehow got a hold of a computer. My voice was just that bad. From years of just barely talking per day. And ever since I started streaming, I think my voice has mellowed out to how it was before that period of isolation. And it wasn't just the big, or I guess the small C. The big C is still the big C. The small C with 19 attached to it. Yeah, that didn't help things, but even before that, my voice was pretty much dead. Yeah, very raspy, very just, ooh, not good. That kind of thing. So there has been a lot of improvement there. I don't even know how to do this. Like, would we bounce it off the wall here? Probably like this. No, not like that at all. uh, this is a tough one. Let's try that. It's not gonna work. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'm happy with the improvement in my voice, but I haven't really done any gaming content, stream-wise, publicly, since then. And I haven't done any art content either. That said, I am doing a fair bit of art content for the upcoming anniversary stream. It's kind of why my channel has... Well, if anyone recognized a pattern in the variety or specificities of my content per day, and they notice that there has been a change, that's why. That's a good part of the reason why. I'm just trying to get things sorted for that anniversary stream. And coming down to 2 weeks, I am feeling the pressure. It's there. So the content itself might be a little bit different from the usual standards. I don't have any nature shorts coming out. And another thing with that, the YouTube algorithms are just doing strange things with my content. They're recommending them to diverse demographics. Like, I said the other week that one of my biggest demographics is people over the age of 45. And my ISP is continuing to hiccup. We'll see if that continues. If it does, I might have to reschedule this stream. I know, it'd be a shame. But it happens, right? I can't control that. Maybe one day I will get Starlink internet, right? From Elon Musk. And he can send his Twitter bots over. And he'll hook up a Starlink antenna. That'd probably be the only alternative I have to my current ISP. Which is very inconsistent. Unfortunately so. A lot of streamers have that problem, right? I have no idea what I was talking about. Anyway, I have been attempting to, I guess, work on making this 1-year anniversary stream really special as far as my content goes. I'm trying to become a character for it. And that's not very easy to do when the character is... Well, I'm slightly unhinged myself, so I think it's easy enough to do that. But there are certain aspects of it that are very inconsistent with my own personality, and that makes it tough to get in character and stay in character. Oh, yeah. Yeah, It's true. If I do grow, like, big, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think I'm gonna be small time, and that's okay with me. They will wonder if I don't give announcements. That's true. And I'm very bad with announcements. Like, social media in general, I'm just not great with. Being social in general, I'm just not great with. That's okay, right? I'm sure there are plenty of people out there living perfectly successful lives who are not great with social media. They probably have managers, though. Yeah. It would be. It's a slow process. It is. I guess if you actually want to grow, right? If that is your only goal as a content source, if you want to grow as a channel or as a streamer, and I guess it depends on your metrics. Whatever metrics of success that you want. If you want more numbers, I think more viewers, you probably need to stream more than I do. I only stream once a week. That is to maximize the Hyde content that is coming through. Yeah. Maximizing the Hyde content. Some people, I have seen them stream with ridiculous schedules, like they're streaming every day, and they're streaming 3 to 4 hours a day. Maybe more. I don't know how they do it. I have to feed myself, I have to do my laundry, I have a job that I do every single day. I don't know how you stream 3 to 4 hours every day. You have to really want it, I think. And I don't think I'm ready to sacrifice what is necessary to make that happen. I think I'm just too old to sacrifice that anymore. If I lose any more sleep, I worry. Oh, that was so close. I worry about my health, you know? I'm at that age now where I have to worry about my health. And I didn't used to have to. Going a couple days without sleeping was no problem. Sure, I might have become a little more unhinged after a day or two of not sleeping, but it wasn't Russian sleep experiments bad where I was clawing at my own face and telling me that or telling other people outside of a room that I don't want to sleep. It was more just, you know, irritability. Sometimes the walls were moving in strange geometric patterns. The usual stuff, really. But I have been trying to get in the right mindset for what I want to do as a content creator, right? My goals are not necessarily numbers. If they were, I wouldn't be streaming with a schedule like this. I would sacrifice other things. I would stop eating properly. Like, sure. Alright, so you could argue that I'm probably not eating properly, but it's fine for me. And I'm not sacrificing anything to make content. But I know for certain some people do, right? Like, they'll order takeout every single day that they're streaming. And I have to wonder, what's that do to a human body? That has to be terrible for you. Gonna end up with high cholesterol, hypertension, weird heart rates. It's not good. I'd rather be semi-healthy, if at all possible. It's just not worth the cost of fame, you know? Especially internet fame. Like, some people get into this hobby thinking they're going to strike it big, be famous, get a lot of adjuration. I don't really want that. I don't really care for it. I'm just making content as a creative endeavor. If any of that happens, great. Like, I'm not gonna lie and say, no, I don't want that. Because it'd be fun, in a way. Oh, yeah? Grinding on a game for over 10 hours? Oh yeah. Got sick after that. I'm not surprised. If you're grinding in a game for 10 hours, yeah. Here's the thing, like, streaming isn't all fun, either. Streaming can be very stressful to certain people. Extroverts can manage it a lot better. But even then, like, you have to be aware of everything you're doing. You do have to be aware. And you have to present the character if you're in character. I don't know who your Oshi is. I find it very strange that I appeared in your search for that Oshi when I am such a small-time PNGtuber, yeah? And it sounds like I'm nothing like them, other than the fact that I would get sick too if I were streaming for 10 hours straight. Oh, that sounds awful. Like, that's most of your day. I know some people who aren't even awake for 10 hours a day. Yes, that sounds awful too, sleeping 14 hours a day. But I know some people who do that. Or at least I used to. And yeah, if that's all you're doing every day, that would be horrible for your health. I kind of feel bad for that person, whoever your Oshi is. And it's fine to talk about whoever your Oshi is. I'm not one of those streamers who doesn't really like other people being mentioned, so feel free. I just probably have never heard of them. Unless they're in Hololive. I'll admit to being, or used to being, a very big Hololive fan. Back when Myth came out and the Council came out. Like, I was a Sonolite. That was really my big thing. After Sona appeared and disappeared. I kind of went to the indie scene, yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know if I'm okay to discuss it. Okay, you don't have to. Again, you do not have to. Whatever you want to feel, or... Okay. You're new to my channel, so I will discuss this as I have before in the past. I don't actually expect anyone to watch these streams live. It's always nice when people do. And I may ask questions, but you never have to respond. I don't want you to ever feel forced to respond, or forced to watch my streams or content, or anything like that. Like, it's a very chill kind of attitude. Again, I'm not really doing this for numbers. I'm here for a creative endeavor, and my one weekly stream is all about just providing an opportunity for anyone who wants to talk with me live. And the cast of people who show up for my streams varies per week. I'm pretty sure this is your first time here. You only just recently left a comment, so I don't think you would have even known that I live streamed it. It's fairly uncommon. Yeah. But yeah, please don't ever feel like it's necessary to talk. It's not. I will just ramble on for hours if no one wants to leave a chat message. That's how I started, right? I started talking to 0 people. And I will continue to talk to 0 people for as long as there are 0 people talking. If I ask a question and you don't feel comfortable answering, like, please just don't answer. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And if you want to be a lurker, I have several lurkers from time to time, and they don't even like being mentioned, right? Like, just not acknowledged. If that's something you like, I can do that too. It's very easy going here. Yeah. Mostly, I wanted to be a background noise streamer, helping people fall asleep. That's why there's very little in the way of loud noises in my streams. Even my horror content, I typically tone it down for those people. All-Star EN. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yes, okay, Gerard. Okay, you're a fan of Gerard. Yeah, yeah. I have not watched any of the new Hollow Stars EN. I will admit that I was pretty big fan of Magni and Vesper. So you can extrapolate from there. After that, I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, all of my Oshis left. Sano left. The only Oshi that I have, or had, that is remaining in Hollow is Kiara. I was in KFP for a while there. I don't know. I haven't watched much of Gerard. I saw some of his early clips and his early content, and I liked it. I had a good laugh at some of his comments, right? But it's not his fault, right? Full disclosure, I am a degreed geologist, so some of his timeline comments make me laugh, or made me laugh back in the day. So when I was playing that, that was in my mind, and I made a few comments in the actual long form about that, but I really don't have anything against him. Yeah. I can't tell you the last time I sat down and watched a corporation VTuber stream, though. Yeah. So I'm not up to date. I did watch a couple streams not too long ago, but it was mostly myth. Yeah. Kiara's new outfit. Interesting. Definitely not what I ever expected to see in Hollow Live. But I don't know. That's just one of those things, right? Like, they change with the times. I have been meaning to look back at the corpo scene, the big corporation VTubers. It's just, when you become an indie, like, all of your time gets consumed by the process of creating content yourself, or networking with other smaller VTubers who might be of comparable content or size. That's really the reality of it. I don't have much time anymore to be watching things. And I'm not complaining about that. That is one of the things I traded to get into this creative hobby. I traded my free time as a VTuber watcher, and I became a VTuber, well, PNGtuber creator. Yeah. If I wanted to sacrifice more in the name of success, I could do that. I probably could. Whether or not I'd get success, even if I did make those sacrifices, though, no idea, really. That's not really my jam. I just like experiencing interesting things. That's why a lot of my content is indie games, as it were. Yeah. I've been waffling on a long time. Yeah. It's perfectly fine to mention that Gerard is one of your Oshis. I'm not a jealous VTuber or PNGtuber. Perfectly fine. I did want to have a discussion, though, about sandwiches. I know that's strange, but I made a tweet earlier, and I said it would probably be easier to convince people that a jelly donut was a sandwich than to convince people that a pie was a sandwich. And I want to talk about that. I want to convince whoever's listening that a pie is a sandwich. That is my goal for the next maybe half an hour. To convince you that a pie is a sandwich. Let's start, okay? What is a sandwich? We all know what a sandwich is. Sandwiches have been around for a very long time, historically speaking, since the Earl of Sandwich popularized the dish, the sandwich. Some kind of bread with a filling. Now, we could do that very, very broadly. It doesn't have to be bread. I know that there are sandwiches that are gluten-free, for example. Yeah. Gerard, oh, how much should I say about Gerard? I've heard a bit about his past life, and I have seen at least a couple of his past life videos. He does have some brashness. He is very loud and aggressive, but not in a bad way, right? He's loud and aggressive in a confident and swaggery kind of way. Let's use the word swagger. He has a lot of swagger, and he's very in your face. But again, not in a bad way, just in a very different way, right? How would I say that? He likes being the center of attention, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people, if you're an entertainer, being the center of attention is kind of necessary. You have eyes on you all the time. I don't really know too much about his grinding habits, but if he grinded in a game for 10 hours and ended up getting sick, yeah, that'll do it. That's enough. Yeah, center of attention. He's at home on a stage, as I would say. I'm kind of at home. I don't mind it. I don't necessarily enjoy it. Very different kind of personality, though. Yeah. Which is, again, another reason why I think it's very strange that I came up in... Well, you know what? Because of the fan game, right? Yeah, I played his fan game. So that would make sense that I came up in the search for your Oshi. And having red hair, I guess you would have to wonder why exactly I'm there. Sure. That makes perfect sense, in fact. I was convinced that there would be no reason. I have a very bad memory. So I do have this flash of inspiration kind of style thing going on, where I'm easily tangented and I just come back to a thing out of nowhere. It circles around eventually, if I go long enough. I did play the game, yes. I did. Yeah, that's probably why it did pop up, yeah. I thought it was an interesting looking game. You don't see too many Hololive fan games for Hollow Stars, specifically. I've seen a couple Hololive fan games, but I haven't seen too many Hollow Stars fan games. And that's why I specifically picked that game. Yeah. I picked it, I think it was during his birthday, right? I might have gotten there like a week late, but I did pick it around there. Yeah. I don't know. It was definitely a departure from my usual horror game content, but it was interesting, right? Well, one of the things I do when I'm making content is I just click on the recent game submissions to itch.io, and I take a look around. I usually take an hour and just take a look around. Yeah. Well, how do I respond to that? Hollow Stars is still small. In a way, yes. Yes. It might have been a little bit more than a week. I have a very bad sense of time, in addition to having a poor memory. Like, I'm not even sure if it was this week. I think it was. Well, technically it was last week that you left your first comment on my channel. Yeah. Yeah. It was last week because this is the start of a new week. It's technically Monday for me, so yesterday would have been the start of a new week. Again, I circle around to things. It was a little more than a week, probably. Could have been as much as a month. What was I talking about, though? Hollow Stars being small. Yes and no. Hollow Stars as a cult following is how I think of it. I wouldn't call that necessarily small. I don't know. It's definitely smaller than, say, Hollow Live's following. There are certain groups of people who want that kind of content. And it's probably a smaller proportion than the kind of people who want the idle content of a Hollow Live. I don't know. I just generally get that feeling. I haven't done the math. I haven't run the numbers. I don't necessarily think they're small, though. When I think small, I think of, like, independent VTubers and PNGtubers. Maybe that's just my perspective as a very small, independent PNGtuber, right? Small is relative. And I would say being in a corporation at all is probably bigger than not being in a corporation at all. But if you mean as a total proportion of, like, covers audience, then yeah, absolutely, they're still very small, I think. Very being relative again. It's really interesting. If you look at the proportion of people who watched VTubers when Myth first came out, for example, that was years and years ago now. I feel old. Yeah, years and years ago, there weren't too many English viewers of VTubers. Most of them were either people who were learning about Japanese culture, or they were learning Japanese itself and watching these streams, or they were clip watchers like me, watching little clips with translations from the Hololive girls. And Niji's there, sure. Don't get me wrong. But I do remember it being a fairly small market back then, the EN viewer crowd. And that's exploded in recent times. Now there are thousands and thousands of independent VTubers and PNGtubers. Yeah. In terms of members, it does seem smaller, just in my experience as well. Hollow Stars has always seemed generally smaller, more niche. Not that it's necessarily worse in any way, just that there are fewer people who seem to be there for it. I don't know. I think there could be a renaissance for that kind of content, eventually. But right now, I think we're just in the blossoming of the VTuber as a medium for content creation, especially for, like, male VTubers. I think there are a lot of them out there, and a lot of them are very good at what they do. I don't know. Maybe they're ahead of their time, right? I think there are plenty of streamers out there, and there are plenty of audience viewers out there who might enjoy the content, but they're a little bit hesitant still to click on a male anime figure led stream. I don't know. It's not exactly, like, taboo. It's not anything to be ashamed over. But like I was saying earlier, this account was made because I didn't want my feed to be full of anime girls. So maybe there is an element of maybe shame, embarrassment, people just not being open with themselves. And maybe someday that market will even out. I don't know. Hollow Stars EN is still fairly new. There are 2 generations, right? And 2 of the big ones from Gen 1 of Hollow Stars EN. What were they? The Adventurers, what were they called? Tempest? Yes, there we go. My mind is not working tonight. Never was. 2 two of the big Tempest members, they're gone now. Although, some might say they're right back into it. I don't know if you've been following what they've been doing since then, but one of them, I do believe, did something today. Yeah. A certain professor may have said something. I don't know if that's taboo for you. Taboo knowledge. I'm a very Lovecraftian individual, so I do feel like some knowledge is taboo. Some knowledge is more painful than other knowledge. Being a former Sonolite, for example, yeah, some knowledge is more painful than other knowledge. Like my Twitter account, one of the big things on my Twitter account was that I was noticed by Senpai. Sana herself retweeted one of my... Well, I baked a Sonolite. I made a bread dog. I made a bread dog out of actual bread. That was one of my big things on Twitter. And it took me years between that and me actually becoming a content creator myself. Hollow Armus is new, and also Vesper. Oh, okay. Fair. You're absolutely correct. I guess there are two generations of Tempest. Hollow Armus, sure. You're absolutely correct. Vesper goes back to his indie VTuber. Yes, okay. Then you know what's going on with the cat burglar. I actually like his new design, mostly because of the colors. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a big fan of red, black, and white. High contrast, high visibility. It's a wonderful combination. So I think his new design, fantastic. Yeah, absolutely great work there. When we're talking about cats, though, I kind of figure maybe I'm the better cat. Hold on a second. I don't remember what... No, I don't have a hotkey for this. Yeah, I think I'm the better cat. Just throwing that out there. I was a cat before he was. I was underground cat. His cat model looks much better than mine. Most of the time, I just make models that make me laugh, right? And I can understand this not being everyone's cup of tea. It's certainly not my cup of tea, but it's appropriate when I play cat games, right? I think he wants to be more of a cat burglar. Most of the time, a master of disguise, as it were. But yeah, that happened, I think, today. I'm not too informed of the scene. I just noticed it on Twitter. Of all places. It's remarkable. I used to be someone who was never actually on social media. Like, I spent maybe an hour a week on social media. And that was it. That's like all social media per week. And now, like, I have to be on social media all the time. I have to be aware of what's going on around me in the indie VTuber world. Because there's always something to be learned, right? As I was saying, as you were saying, Hollow Stars EN is relatively new, even if you consider that there are 3 generations. Not 2. 3. I'll accept that. Although, you know, it's like one of those sequels. If they would have made Myth 2, would that count? I don't know. Is Iris her own generation, technically? I don't know. Let's just call it 3. Yeah, let's call it 3, and I'll accept that. It's just one of those things where it boggles my mind how time flies, really. And the proliferation of VTubing as a medium, has just happened so rapidly that now the entire market's pretty saturated with fairly competent streamers, fairly interesting, gimmicky in some cases, but fairly interesting models, and people are really pushing the boundaries of what it means to be a VTuber or PNGtuber. Like there is that one streamer, Uo's Lab, I think it is. He basically is an engineer who makes murder machines that have a high likelihood of murdering him. And I do recommend him. He has some funny content if you like science and engineering and potentially the harming of the streamer. I think that's one of the biggest draws. You never know if he's going to electrocute himself or not. So yeah, if you like content like that, you can check that out. But yeah, that's fairly unusual. That's content that you wouldn't expect to see from a VTuber or PNGtuber. You could argue that maybe it isn't entirely, if there are hand cams or whatever. I don't know. That's an argument I'm not going to make. I'm going to say that it's amazing the kind of variety that we're just starting to see. It feels like there are thousands and thousands and thousands of different VTubers and PNGtubers, all with their own unique stuff. And I thought at one point, okay, the market's entirely saturated. I'm never going to see anything original again. And every time I think that, something new happens. There's a new PNGtuber, a new VTuber, whether it's in a corporation like Hololive, or it's a completely independent one. And they got their own thing going on. They have new redeems. They can turn their monitor upside down and have chat play a game for them. And anything's possible. Well, one of the big ones was Neurosama there for a while. Completely AI. That was fantastic. That was like groundbreaking, right? I don't remember there being an AI neural network VTuber. But that's like the heart of VTubing, isn't it? Like, if you go back to the origins, Kizuna, right? You would definitely see that AI anime girls was the heart of VTubing. That's where it came from. And it was all about making anime real. So I can understand why the English market especially might be a bit hesitant to follow in those footsteps. But I think there is a market for it. It's just a matter of getting rid of that initial starting stigma that came with all anime, really. Like, otaku culture is... It's interesting. I've been reading some stories about this, some articles. Not recently, but I used to. In psychology things. And otaku culture used to be very taboo, but now it's almost celebrated as a counterculture. And the change from a counterculture or an otaku like situation, it is a counterculture even at its start. What would you call that? The change from something which is taboo into something which is socially a counterculture, which is no longer a taboo, which has its own positivity applied to it, is something we've seen before, historically. In my lifetime, I don't know. Maybe goths and emos, scene people, that kind of thing. Those things have historically been like social taboos, but they became sort of celebrated countercultures after a while. And if you're older than me, the hippie movement in the 60s in the USA would be a perfect example of this, where there was a taboo social culture. It's taboo to engage in drug activities and free love exchanges, that kind of thing. And then it just became so dominant in society that musicians were writing about it and stories were written about it. and in even the modern era, it's remembered sort of fondly. I remember there was a show that came out when I was younger, young enough, called That 70s Show. That 70s Show had a lot of portrayals of hippies, and some of them, like, it was a fairly realistic take on the 70s as far as I can tell. And some of them are actually pretty kind to the hippie counterculture, right? Sure, they make fun of stoners and their inability to remember things. Like, I don't know. I'm not one of those, and I have the inability to remember things. So yeah. Cora said yes? Oh. Know something about indie VTubers, but also don't know about Magni doing... Yeah, okay. Okay, sure. Okay, sure. I got very sidetracked there, didn't I? Yeah, okay, let's talk about pie being a sandwich. Did I even start making that argument? I think so. So, a sandwich is some kind of bread with a filling, right? Bread has a loose meaning here, right? Yeah, I think I'm with Quora here. Pie is definitely a sandwich. Bread has a loose definition. It can be anything that isn't even a grain. Like cauliflower is often used in gluten-free pizza crusts. So if you made gluten-free bread, like either out of eggs, there's something called cloud bread, using egg whites, which are whipped, or use cauliflower meal, then that would technically be a sandwich if it had a filling. So it doesn't even need grain. So maybe a sandwich is more the form of whatever it is to be a sandwich. And what it means to be a sandwich is to have something sandwiched in between something. But here's the rub, okay? It can't just mean something that has independent pieces, right? It can't, because there are things like paninis. Do you know what a panini is? It's a pressed sandwich where the bread cannot be pulled apart again. It does not have individual slices of bread anymore. It has become a completely pressed together thing where it has layers, but it is all one thing. And you can find that even older sources, right? Like there are hunting sandwiches, which are just loaves of bread which have been hollowed out and then stuffed and then pressed back together. Those kind of pressed sandwiches are historically really big deals back during like English hunts or foxes. Hamburger pie? Hamburger pie. That's a strange one to me. Like, I know about pork pies. Savory pies don't seem like a strange thing, but hamburgers specifically. Oh, that's tough. Hamburger pie. Oh, okay. I think I get it. Like, there's something in the South, here in the USA, called Frito pie, and it's made with Fritos, a type of corn chip. And I guess hamburger pie is something like that, where it's savory, but not necessarily pie-like. It's a unique type of pie, a pie variant, if you will. But on that line of thought, it can't also just be two separate pieces of bread either. We have to accept that one piece of bread is enough. And my argument there is that there are hot dog buns, right? And I don't think anyone would say that a hot dog is not a sandwich. The internet has long debated that. I know I've been around the block long enough to know that the internet loves to debate whether a hot dog counts as a sandwich. It does. It has a filling, and it has some kind of bread substance sandwiching it. But from there, we have to go into the territory of something like a soft taco, a tortilla, and there's something called a burger wrap, right? Like McDonald's has these burger wraps, where if you are gluten intolerant, you can get, instead of bread, a Big Mac using Big Mac sauce and a tortilla. And would that be a sandwich? I think if we allow hamburgers to be sandwiches, hot dogs to be sandwiches, then yes, that too has to be a sandwich. It has the grain, it has the wrap, and it has the filling. So it is sandwiching something. From there, we have to continue onwards. What if the wrapper is continuously around it, right? Like there are certain dumplings and bao, like wrapped bao, Chinese food. And yes, I know, I'm pronouncing it very poorly. My Chinese is terrible. Non-existent, in fact. Yeah, that is technically a yeasted kneaded dough around a filling. So I think that would have to be accepted too, if we accept a hot dog. If we accept a taco. It's not necessarily that anything has to be individual pieces. It can be wrapped completely. And in the same sense, onigiri, which are just individual rice grains around a filling, has to be considered a sandwich too, because it's not so different from anything like one of those stuffed buns. Like learning forbidden knowledge. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't have any really sense of tonation, so any tonal languages are just absolute killers for me. I didn't learn it early enough for me to be able to pronounce or even hear tones. Kinda tone deaf. So don't ever expect any karaoke. Yeah. It is like forbidden knowledge, though. Again, I'm a very Lovecraftian-influenced individual, and I think some knowledge is cursed. And the fact that I'm arguing that an onigiri would be a sandwich might be a little bit cursed. But if you think about it, all the pieces are there. It is grains wrapped around a filling. There is a filling sandwiched between grains. And even if the grains are individually separated, they're still formed together, much like a cauliflower pizza crust would be formed together. So I don't think there's any difference there. And if we accept that that is a sandwich, then we also have to accept that the Mesoamerican tamale is a sandwich. And in fact, I would argue that the Mesoamerican tamale is a form of onigiri. If you're not familiar with a tamale, it's a specific type of cornmeal that is wrapped around a filling, wrapped in a leaf, and then boiled together. So yeah, that is also a sandwich. So any kind of grain around any kind of filling. So let's get to a pie then. It's fairly simple to deduce from all of these different varied sandwiches that a pie has to be a sandwich. A pie simply has to be a sandwich. The only difference is a pie does not have a kneaded yeasted dough, right? If you look at it, a pie is not really much different from other pastries, like a donut. It's baked instead of fried, but there are baked donuts as well. And if you have a baked jelly donut, for example, like here's the thing with a donut. Donuts are yeasted, and they are kneaded doughs. So they're very much bread. You can argue whether a pie is a sandwich or not, but I will not accept that a donut is not a sandwich. A donut is the most sandwich-like thing out there. It's a jam sandwich. It's just enclosed on all sides. Now, a pie isn't too different from that either. It's just a matter that there's less gluten development. Being less gluten, the wheat grain is more flaky than it is bready. That's all. So if we accept that a jelly donut is a sandwich, a jam sandwich, then we have to accept that a pie is a gluten-free or a low-gluten jelly sandwich, right? Or a jam sandwich, depending on how your fruit's processed. Yeah. And then you could even argue that there are, like, different puff pastries. I don't know how big you are into baking, but there are different kinds of pastry doughs, right? Not all of them are flaky. Back in the early days, some of the earliest pie doughs were actually unleavened. They were just water and flour in a form of a thick paste, and they would just plunk that into a pie tin that was highly greased or larded, and that'd be it. And that's all bread is, water and flour, some salt, yeast, and the only difference would be the process of whether it's allowed to ferment, when it's baked, how it's baked, that kind of thing. All of the ingredients are very much the same though, so it has to be a sandwich. Yeah. So Quora giving that same answer, I'm sure they used much the same sort of, I don't know, logic there, right? I do wonder though, like, is the cooking method important for determining whether something is a sandwich? We know about paninis. I already discussed paninis. Those are a sort of baked or fried sandwich. Much like a grilled cheese, but put together in a panini press. If we accept that that is a sandwich, and I think most people would, what would you consider a steamed sandwich? Not like steamed hams, not steamed clams, not the meme. But there are steamed hot dogs, right? So we can allow moist cooking methods. This is getting into the nitty-gritty of what makes a sandwich, and I'm arguing that there's so much variability in the sandwich world that you definitely can include something like even boiling might be acceptable. You're slowly seeing it? This is where you're starting to get the Lovecraftian madness, where you've gotten so much forbidden knowledge in your head that the world is starting to seem like colors that don't exist are just flashing before your eyes. There are entities with 1,000 gaping maws chanting in a chorus of piping flutes in your ears. You're slowly starting to see it, I'm glad. If you accept steamed hot dogs as a type of sandwich, then what about boiled ones? Would a boiled hot dog, like with the bread of course, be considered a sandwich? Obviously, so long as it was held together still when you unboiled or took it out of the boiling water. So, from there, like, would a ravioli be a type of boiled sandwich? I think it would. I think a ravioli would count as a boiled sandwich. It has a filling, often bread or not bread, meat or cheese. Meat or cheese are typically fillings in sandwiches, so there's nothing strange there. Even a lobster po' boy, right? From New Orleans, they're a lobster ravioli. Like, all of the ingredients are exactly the same. You have a wheat dough, probably a little bit of salt in there, maybe a little bit of oil, sometimes. Like, I don't know if you've ever made pasta dough. There is a lot of variation in pasta doughs. They're very high in gluten, though. So you have to use a strong, high-gluten flour. Yeah. Anyway, bread flours work pretty well if you don't have durum wheat flour or semolina. Semolina is another one. Semolina is very coarse. But I have seen semolina breads as well. Like, back in the old days, you couldn't necessarily get pure wheat. In fact, a lot of places, white wheat bread was not available to the common people. You had to use other grains mixed into it. In the Americas, for example, corn was the best crop for doing that. Corn grew abundantly, easily, and in the climate very well. So when grain harvests of wheat or rye were very poor, they would often add ground cornmeal, into their flour when mixing their breads. Forbidden knowledge is scary? Yeah, it often is. Like the piping chorus of the heralds of the old ones is just going on in your head right now, while I'm giving you all of this knowledge that you probably don't want to hear, but it's there for you, if you ever want it. Yeah. And I have seen semolina bread as well. Semolina breads that have something of like 50% semolina. To me, that sounds awful. Like, it would be very gritty. It'd be awful, I think. Anyway, pie. Definitely a sandwich. It has a filling wrapped around, or yeah, wrapped with a sort of wheated dough. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is that I don't think all cakes are sandwiches. Some cakes are sandwiches, right? But not all cakes. But definitely all pies. Are you familiar with the concept of an open-faced club sandwich? An open-faced club sandwich is a sandwich without the top layer of bread, right? So in this case, it would be a club sandwich, which has turkey and a bunch of other things, usually served with chips on the side. But the most significant part is that it has an open face, that the top does not have bread. So it doesn't even have to be sandwiched between things to be a sandwich. It just has to be recognized as a sandwich. So even if your pie does not have a top crust, if it is an open-faced pie, that would still be an open-faced pie sandwich. Yes, shocked, aren't you? A very shocking revelation that you can have an open-faced sandwich. I know a lot of people who've probably gone throughout their lives without ever considering what it meant to have an open-faced sandwich. Like, I don't even know. Is that even something that's common these days, open-faced sandwiches? Probably not. Unless you're going to like a country club or a golf pavilion. I don't know. I don't golf. I do fish at a golf course. There is a golf course that I like to fish at. And they do have food there. And they do sell open-faced club sandwiches. The pie is a lie? No, the lie is that it's not a sandwich. That's the only lie in the pie. The cake, however, is a lie. Because, unless it's a layer cake, if it's a layer cake, that's a sandwich. But if it's just a single layer, and, if it doesn't have icing on it, like cake frosting, that can't be a sandwich. It's just a cake. That's actually pretty interesting. I don't know. If it has icing on it, would a cake be a sandwich? It might be. It might be an open-face cake sandwich, like an open-face frosting sandwich. Which is an interesting thought. Like, I wanted to say initially that a single layer of cake can't be a sandwich, because you needed 2 pieces of cake. If you had a layer cake and you had icing between the layers, that would be a sandwich for sure, right? It's an icing sandwich. And you could slice it up. Sliced sandwiches are perfectly fine, by the way. There are several sandwiches that you can just slice in triangles, and that makes them fancier. I think cakes are fairly similar to that. If you slice them into triangle pieces of cake, they are just fancier sliced sandwiches. But, I don't know, like, is icing enough to make it an open-faced icing sandwich? Sure, why not? I would argue it is. And if that seems weird, let's talk about ice cream sandwiches next, okay? Ice cream sandwiches are the perfect example of why I'm not just crazy. Ice cream sandwiches would not be called sandwiches by normal people, because they do not use bread. They use little pieces of thin cookie, or cake. You know, fun fact, there is no distinction between cake and cookie. The only distinction is size. Yeah, that's it. A cookie is just a small cake that is often cooked in a free-form way, usually without a pan. If you baked a cookie, if you cooked a bakey in a pan, it would technically be a cake. It would just be a very tiny cake, like a cupcake, right? There are plenty of cakes out there with very runny consistencies, but there are also plenty of cakes out there with very, I don't know, thick consistencies like a cookie would be. Yeah. So you could argue that moisture content would separate cakes and cookies, but no. It's very much the pan itself, the shape of the object. I know that sounds strange, but a cake and a cookie are very much similar, yeah. And a ice cream sandwich, by all means, is the strangest kind of thing we call a sandwich every day. It has a frozen liquid on the inside. That's the filling, a frozen liquid, between two pieces of cookie. Not even bread, but cookie. So, you don't need gluten at all for something to be called a sandwich. That's the main point from that. You don't even need solids on the inside. You don't need distinct layers. You don't need specifically wheat. You don't even need grain. As we've said, there are paleo or even vegan or gluten-free options for breads, whether it be cauliflower or cloud bread made from eggs. So the fact of the matter is, it's not too strange to think that a slice of pie, would be a fancy finger sandwich. Yeah, that's the argument. And if you feel strange hearing that, like I'm sorry, you'll never look at pie again the same way. I could go a step further, right? I could say the number pi could be considered a sandwich as well. 3.14. Well, that has 3.14 in it. Individually, you have 0.1 sandwiched between a 3 and a 4. Pi, as a number, is a sandwich. Oh, that feels weird, doesn't it? But it's true. It even has the form of a sandwich. I feel like I've gone a bit insane here, and I think we're gonna end it here before I lose what's left of my mind. There isn't much left, mind you. It was nice seeing you around, and it was nice for anyone who stopped by to lurk. Yeah. But for now, I'm gonna head out. It was a good chat. Hopefully, you look at pies and sandwiches a little bit differently from now on. Yeah. See you all later. But for now,